baby. If that music doesn't get you pumped up for some football talk, I don't know what's going to get you pumped up. What's up, everybody? It is Hogan. It is Burg. It is Manish. It is the only three-peat that we want to talk about around here is these three mofos up in here talking about some football. That's right. I'm jacked up. I'm ready to go. We had a week off last week, and we had a week off because the Snooze Bowl, the Pro Bowl, as they want to call it, the boring ass, nobody watches it bowl, as I'm going to say, was the only thing that was on last weekend. So, gentlemen, without further ado, let's just dive right into the episode. I'm going to start talking about this crap. Drake May was at the Pro Bowl. Burgess, why the hell was Drake May at the Pro Bowl? Was he even in the top 10 of quarterbacks this year?
Oh, he's like the new GOAT. Are you kidding me? Come on. Get out of here with that.
And we lost Burgess for the night, everybody.
No
I'm
Drake
sorry
May
about
slander.
that.
No. He was a Pro Bowler the same way Mac Jones was.
Right.
Do we consider Mac Jones actually a Pro Bowler doing his stupid little gritty into the end zone on his quarterback sneak? Like, oh my God. That's about the only similarity between the two. But yeah, I mean, he wasn't a Pro Bowler. But let's be real. Like, the Pro Bowl isn't even actual football.
Right.
Unwatchable product.
All right. I mean, I'm going to go on record here and say my favorite memory of all time from the Pro Bowl was the Sean Taylor hit on, what was it, Mormon, the Buffalo Bills punter. One of the greatest hits I've ever seen on a football field, and it was in the freaking Pro Bowl of all places. But Manish, let me throw the question to you then. I read an article earlier that said that the NFL is kind of in shambles right now about this Pro Bowl situation because they had the lowest viewership, I think, in history of the Pro Bowl being in existence. And I know the NFL's had its ups and downs with it since they moved it before the Super Bowl instead of after the Super Bowl, moving it out of Hawaii, which I know the state of Hawaii was BS about because that was half their tourism alone from the Pro Bowl and people loved having it there. And I mean, Christ, if I'm going to go to the Pro Bowl, I want to go to Hawaii to see it. But the question is, what can the NFL do to fix this product? Is there anything they can do? Is it just should they just can it completely, or is there any saving grace for the Pro Bowl at this point?
I don't think so. I mean, you had mentioned the declining ratings. I think the raw number was 4 million people watched the flag football game, which is unbelievable to think that 4 million people actually turned on the TV to watch that. Probably a million or so less than a year ago. So, as you said, the lowest viewership since this flag football got thrown in our faces. There's no real fix to it. It's either you keep the flag football game or you don't have anything. I don't think you're going to go back to tackle football. It became evident in those last several years in the Pro Bowl when they were playing in Florida. Guys weren't tackling. It essentially was touch football, and that was awful to watch. I mean, it was just brutal. I remember watching one of the last few Pro Bowls in helmets and shoulder pads, and it wasn't tackle football. The guys just don't want to hit each other. They don't want to get hurt. I do understand that. So just get rid of it altogether. But, if you can pack a stadium or, pack most of the stadium, and even if you're getting 4 million viewers, the week before the Super Bowl, I don't see any real incentive for the NFL to do away with it, because even though the numbers are minimal compared to obviously a real football game, it's still something that people maybe just mindlessly sit there and watch. I don't anticipate that changing. What I thought was fascinating was that this week Roger Goodell came out and said that he is really serious, and the league is really serious about starting a professional flag football league, which is interesting. Not necessarily in the short term, but in the long term, I'm wondering, 15 years from now, I'm really stretching it out into the future, but 15 years from now, are some great athletes want to play, would they choose to play flag football instead of tackle football? If the money is comparable, which I don't anticipate that it would be, but, you asked me 15 years ago if there was going to be a league with flag football, I would have said it's not possible, but who knows? But if you could make a decent amount of money playing flag football versus playing tackle football, why wouldn't you just play flag football? So I think that there could be long-term damage, but again, that's really down the road. But it seems like the league is hell-bent on starting some sort of professional football league. So that to me will be interesting to see, how that develops, when it develops, what kind of players are we talking about? Are we talking about former NFL players who, obviously can't play tackle anymore, but still want to play the sport in some respect and choose the flag football route, much like the seniors tour in golf, for example.
That would be an interesting concept that I think would be cool to see the retired guys come out, like you see like T.O. going up catching passes, Cinco again, stuff like that. The one thing that I remember from when I was younger, when obviously the Patriots' first dynasty was going on, was they had the big quarterback challenge that, Peyton Manning, even Doug Flutie was playing in it, Carson Palmer, all these guys. And I know they're doing like a sort of a skills type competition now at the Pro Bowl. It just doesn't seem to have the same allure that, it had back then, at least to me as a just a football fan. I would fully support them going more completely like skills competition based with drills and everything like that, other than doing stupid, the stupid show like the diving catch. I know they've done, I don't know if they did it this year, because again I didn't watch, but focusing their attention more on that than playing like an actual quote unquote game.
Yeah, and I think that they're trying to do that with the skills competition. For the old heads out there who are around the early 80s, maybe even the late 70s, there was a TV show called Battle of the Network Stars, where you had all these actors come and do like a tug of war, obstacle course, things of that nature. That's very similar, I think, to what the NFL is trying to do with the skills competition. And Burge, I'm right there with you. I used to love those, quarterback competitions when, you're trying to see who could throw the ball the farthest, and, some guy that you didn't think had a great arm, somehow wins the competition. And those things were really fascinating to me. And I think maybe, and I don't want to, speak on your behalf, but maybe it's because of where we were in our life, teenagers, kids. And I don't know, even back then, how many 30, 40, 50-year-olds were watching it. So I don't know what their target audience is going to be, but I'm there with you. I think those skills competitions could be interesting. I mean, I do draw the line at dodgeball. I know that's one of the activities that they do now. I don't think that's, unless Ben Stiller's, playing, I don't really think that it's something that I'd be interested in watching. NFL players playing dodgeball.
Oh yeah, I couldn't do it either. And you're seeing the trend across all the professional sports when it comes to these all-star competitions where they're not just playing the game. As a big hockey guy, for me, watching the all-star game was always pretty cool to watch. When you had all the superstars playing a game, when they're actually trying, they weren't hitting each other, but they were actually playing. But, I'm a goalie, and in those all-star games, like the goalies just get lit up, and everybody's trying not to get hurt. And that's what it is. And it's obviously it's a moneymaker for the league, but it's just, the product to watch is not, it's not what it was. Even when it was like an actual quote unquote football game, when they were going easy and they weren't hitting people, it was far more intriguing to me than watching these guys in no pads, in shorts and a t-shirt, trying to pull flags off each other. At least a couple of years ago, we had, I forget the player who did it, but somebody laid out Tyreek Hill in the game, or in the going to the goal line, like on the side. Like it wasn't like an actual hit, it was like a collision, but there was actually like contact, and Tyreek Hill got like bumped out of bounds and fell down and everything. I was like, that was the most exciting play from the entire game. The only highlight that you
the
can
NFL
remember.
had to use that as like a highlight for the Pro Bowl for the next like 3 years. I know exactly what you're talking about. So at the end of the day, you're whipping dodgeballs at each other's faces or whatever. It's a waste of time. I don't know what we're doing here. So like I said, let's move on from the snooze bowl, as I'm going to continuously call it at this point. Another thing that happened that I'm not going to lie, I did not watch because I am not an award show kind of person. The NFL awards happened last night as of the time of this recording. And kind of a big surprise that obviously I know Burgess is going to be a little bit upset about is the MVP for this year ended up falling into the lap of none other than Josh Allen, the Buffalo Bills quarterback. Manish, did Lamar get robbed here? Is this like, are we diving into this too much, or was Josh Allen deserved of the MVP because of what he was able to do for his team? Where Lamar, the argument can be made, right? Lamar has a phenomenal team around him, and I think Josh Allen doesn't have a bad team by any means, but did Lamar mean more to Baltimore than Josh Allen meant to Buffalo?
It's a fascinating question. I think the way that you framed the question, I would say that Josh Allen was more valuable to Buffalo than Lamar was to the Ravens. Now, that being said, I would have voted for Lamar Jackson, and this is from a guy who for three quarters of the season thought, or half the season, thought Josh Allen was going to win the MVP and should win the MVP. But I know the numbers can lie sometimes, but Lamar Jackson's numbers were outrageous. I mean, historically incredible, just out of this world. And I think that he got dinged by several voters because Derrick Henry had an incredible season himself. Whereas if you look at the Bills running game, for example, James Cook, a lot of touchdowns, great season, but not probably to the level of Derrick Henry. And if you look at the weapons around the Bills, not that great from the pass catching standpoint. I don't even think, to be honest, Lamar had that many great pass catching options. I know people throw out Mark Andrews and say Flowers was technically a Pro Bowler. I don't think he should have been, but he did make the Pro Bowl team. Look, both these guys had incredible seasons. In a perfect world, it would have been a co-MVP situation if the votes shook out that way. To say that Lamar got robbed, I think Lamar was worthy, but it's not as if the guy who beat him out was a total scrub and didn't deserve it. So it's really kind of how you view the award. I know that some of the voters came out and described why they chose Josh Allen instead of Lamar Jackson, how they view value, how they view the ambiguous term valuable. Is it most outstanding player? Is it the best player? Is it value to your team, value across the league? There's a number of different ways to interpret it, and your interpretation is ultimately going to determine who you vote for. Now, what I will say, and I don't want to pick on any particular voter, so I'm not going to mention him by name, but one voter had Lamar Jackson fourth in his ballot. And that's outrageous. I mean, that really is outrageous. I think it's outrageous to have either one of those two guys third, but at least maybe you can make some sort of a case. But to say that there's three other guys this season more valuable than Lamar Jackson when he put up, the numbers from a team standpoint and from an individual standpoint that he did is really ridiculous. I think that the voting system is flawed. And we can get into the Hall of Fame voting system, which I know we're going to talk about in a little bit. I think that's flawed as well. But the notion that Lamar Jackson could be a first-team All-Pro but not win the MVP is ludicrous in my mind. It's the first time it's happened since 1987 when John Elway won the MVP. I believe that Joe Montana was first-team All-Pro, or maybe it was vice versa. But that was the last time something like this happened, where the first-team All-Pro quarterback was not the MVP of the league. No disrespect to Josh Allen, unbelievable player. I'm the biggest Josh Allen fan on this podcast, obviously. You can make a legit case that Josh Allen could have won at some point in the past, and I can make a legitimate case Lamar Jackson shouldn't have won last year. But again, that's just after the fact justification. In a vacuum this season, I think the guy who was more deserving was Lamar Jackson.
Well, there you have it, folks. MVP should have gone to Lamar. Josh Allen, absolute scrub. He shouldn't have gotten it. No, I'm just kidding. Obviously, I'm taking words out of your mouth, but I'm going to throw it to a guy who absolutely believes that he's a scrub, because our resident Buffalo Bills hater over here, Burg, you all know and love him. Burgess, my man, I got to think about this question now, because originally I was going to ask if it was really just Josh Allen in this category. But now thinking about it, with the accolades that Lamar Jackson has as well up to this point, and he also has not been able to get it done, are we seeing a new age type of Dan Marino, possibly Peyton Manning before winning the big game situation with Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen at this point, where they cannot get over that hump that is the Kansas City Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes? Or am I blowing this out of proportion and these guys are destined to win Super Bowls at some point in their career?
Well, I'm just going to say my hatred for the Buffalo Bills and Josh Allen has grown exponentially over the last couple of weeks, because I actually circled the wagons for them a couple of weeks ago and they let me down. So we'll just say that. But no, you bring up a great point about both of these guys. And I know we had originally phrased it as this was just going to be a Josh Allen talk, but I totally agree with the two of them until one or both prove that they can beat the Chiefs in the playoffs, beat Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs, and get to the big game. You're talking about a new age Dan Marino, Dan Fouts, like the guys that could never get there and win the big games. I got to give Dan Fouts credit to my buddy Puma, because right after Josh Allen lost that game, that's exactly what he said to me. He sent me a message in the Twitter inbox, a DM, and he's like, he's the next Marino, he's the next Dan Fouts, the guys that could just not get over the hump and win a game. And I felt, honestly, I know I picked the Chiefs to win in the AFC Championship game, but I was rooting for Buffalo, and I really thought that they were actually going to finally get by the Chiefs this year. And watching that game, I know we didn't talk about it, but like the fact that they changed a lot of what they did, and they just they got outclassed in the coaching department, I feel, in that game. And it just seems to think that, like, unless something drastically changes in Buffalo, that Josh Allen's not getting over the hump. I think that they've reached their ceiling with Sean McDermott there, and a new voice for that Buffalo team probably could help them get over that hump, but it's all going to take is going to be something like that, a shakeup, a change of things, a change of coaching scheme, get some more talent in there, etc. But I mean, they've had the talent, and they haven't gotten over it. So from Lamar's standpoint, I mean, he's got the coaching, he's got the players, he's got the supporting cast, and for whatever reason, when it comes time in the playoffs, like something happens to him. Like, it's hard for me to fault Lamar completely in the game against the Bills a few weeks ago, because he had some pretty bad drops and didn't get a lot of breaks there, but he also threw a couple interceptions and had a bad fumble in that game. And that seems to happen to Lamar in the playoffs. So until these guys can show that they can get over that hump and do it, yeah, I'm going to be in that camp of they're the next Dan Fouts, Dan Marino. I know I mentioned his name earlier to you, Hogan, before Manish jumped on, but Phillip Rivers is a guy who can never get over the hump too, who is one of the better QBs of his era. But you're talking about them falling into that category versus the Mahomes, the Bradys, and even the Mannings at this point, because Peyton Manning won too. But like Eli, all that, they're going to be in that type of environment until they can prove it.
Oh, I love it, buddy. You set me up wonderfully for our next segment here.
See what I did there?
By mentioning the douchebag that we all know and love of Eli Manning. That's right. I said it. I'm a Patriots fan. I have to say it. I hate Eli Manning so much for all the nightmares and torture he's put me through for those two damn Super Bowls, especially 07. I will never forget that. But music to my ears. That bitch did not get in the Hall of Fame. That's right. I'm going there. I'm saying it. He doesn't deserve it. I'm going to say it, Manish. That's right. I'm going all out. I hate Eli Manning, and I'm so glad he's not in the Hall of Fame. You know why? Because he doesn't deserve it, and we're going to talk about it, gentlemen. I'm setting you up good here. I'm getting all riled up about it. The Hall of Fame class was announced for last night, and some big names, big names were put on that list, including the likes of Antonio Gates, one of the guys that Phillip Rivers loved to throw to there. Antonio Gates arguably was one of the greatest tight ends of all time before the likes of Gronk and Kelsey came around, obviously in the same breath and category as Tony Gonzalez. But Antonio Gates was just a class act all the way through, and one of the best tight ends I've ever seen play the game. Another guy, Jared Allen, sack master. Love seeing his rodeo little roundup thing that he did whenever he got a sack. I think he finished top 10 all time in sacks, if I'm not mistaken there. Played for a plethora of teams, very good teams, Minnesota, Chicago, Carolina at one point. Actually, kind of blew my mind. I forgot that Jared Allen played in that Super Bowl for Cam Newton's team, Carolina, that lost to Denver there. So unfortunately, Jared Allen never able to capture a Super Bowl. But then we got some other names in there as well. Sterling Sharp getting in there on a we talked about a pre-recording on a shortened career, but Manish, you had a take on him that you argued that he was arguably better than his brother when he was healthy and dominant and able to play and everything like that. So very well deserving there. And then it's Eric Allen, I believe, was the last name that was on the list there as well. So big names getting into the Hall of Fame, very deservedly. But Burgess, my man, I'm going to throw it to you first. How sweet, just how cherry on top was it to not see Eli Manning's name cross that list as a first ballot Hall of Famer? He's eventually going to get in. We know that. Does he deserve it? Absolutely not. But in the Hall of Very Good, as we all agreed on, everybody ends up in that damn Hall of Fame. So, but just how good is it to not see him on that list this year?
I took a lot of the bait on Twitter yesterday and the day before from people basically saying how much he deserves to be in, all the Giants fans and stuff. And, you know, outside of the two really good playoff runs, you got to give him the credit for that. On those playoff runs, he was a mediocre quarterback in the league for the Giants. And it was very good to see it. I was ashamed to see that his name was a finalist and the guys of the likes of Rodney Harrison and all this. We're not there. And it feels good. I mean, like you said, Hogan, that guy has caused me a lot of pain. I watched that 07 Super Bowl with a room full of Giants fans. I am still scarred to this day from how that went down. All right. I am scarred. I when The Man in the Arena came out, Tom Brady's documentary, I had to work up the courage to watch that episode about that season because of that. What could. And Manish, I worked at a sporting goods store when this season was going on, and I saw the 19-0 shirts. That's why they lost. I saw the merchandise. It was
Did you
there.
steal one of them?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. But they were there. They were there, and I looked at them, and I was like, "That it's very." From now on, I want nothing. I'm such a superstitious person. I don't know why I did it, but I did it.
So we have you to thank. We have you to thank for that damn Super Bowl. Thanks a lot, Burgess. Appreciate you effing that up for us Patriot fans here. But, all right, before we go ahead.
Just one last point. We talked. Manish brought it up. Manish brought it up about the two throws, like the one to Manningham, outstanding throw and catch. I mean, perfectly thrown ball. That's just bad luck for Patriots fans there. I mean, you can only tip your cap to something like that. But the damn helmet catch, like, so lucky.
Ball hit the ground.
Okay, he was he was in the grasp. That whistle should have been blown. It wasn't. I can go at the refs all day. The whistle should have been blown. You can tell I'm not over it, because that's that one thing from the entire dynasty that we didn't get. And I know that's being greedy and sounding spoiled, but that is the one thing we didn't get. And we have Eli Manning to thank. So anytime that they can push him down the road, because like you said, I know he's going to get in at some point, push him down the road, let guys like Rodney Harrison get in first, and then we can go from there. But yeah.
I love it. I love it. Well, before we move on to our ad break here, Manish, you got any thoughts on the Hall of Fame class for this year?
Yeah, I'm glad that Eric Allen got in. I saw pretty much every game that he played growing up in Philadelphia. I think it was long overdue. A little surprised that Torrey Holt didn't get in. I think he'll have his day at some point down the line. The guy that I'm actually, quote unquote, concerned about is Fred Taylor. A lot of injuries early in his career, but to me, he's a Hall of Fame player. Just watching him play, one of the best running backs in the NFL every season that he played a full season or close to a full season, just a dynamic home run hitter from anywhere on the field. I'm essentially going to echo everything that Burg just said and what you just said, Hogan, about Eli Manning. Look, 16 seasons, not one All-Pro, not one single MVP vote. Anybody who watched Eli Manning, great guy, but anybody who watched him play would never say in any given season in his 16-year career he was a top 5 quarterback. It didn't exist. That's not reality. He had 2 great postseason runs. You can never take that away from him. For as impressive as it was to beat the 2 Patriot teams, winning in Lambeau against the 15-1 Packers team on the way to one of those Super Bowls in the freezing cold was extremely impressive as well. But do 2 playoff runs, Super Bowl runs, is that enough to make you a Hall of Famer? Because yes, he was a 2-time Super Bowl MVP. Should he have been a 2-time Super Bowl MVP? Look, I get it that they give it to the quarterback, but anybody who watched that first Giants Patriot Super Bowl knows that the defensive line, Justin Tuck, O.C. Umenyiora, Antonio Pierce along that defense, and most of all, Steve Spagnuolo, who's going to be the defensive coordinator on Sunday, those were the guys most responsible, and David Tyree, those were the guys most responsible for winning that game. The Patriots were averaging 37 points a game, which is absolutely insane, and they held that explosive offense, probably the best offense in the history of pro football, to 14 points. To me, that defense won the Super Bowl. You couldn't give it to the entire defensive line. You probably should have given it to Justin Tuck, but Eli Manning got it. I don't think that was deserved at all. But again, solid quarterback, average, slightly above average, with 2 incredible playoff runs. I don't think that's enough to get you in the Hall of Fame. Frankly, I had a friend of mine earlier this week liking him to Jim Plunkett. I didn't think Jim Plunkett deserved to be in the Hall of Fame either. He had a less impressive regular season career than Eli Manning did. So he's going to get in, as you guys said. Probably makes Patriot fans feel better that he didn't get in the first time, but he's going to get in. I don't think he's the best quarterback. I didn't think when he was playing he was even the best quarterback in his division. I'm biased, admittedly, but Donovan McNabb was a better quarterback, and you can't tell me otherwise. And I know we're up against the break here. I want to say something real quick about Josh Allen. Great examples, Burge, Dan Marino, Fouts, Phillip Rivers. To me, I look at Josh Allen not being able to get past one guy, Patrick Mahomes, much like in another sport, Patrick Ewing, Reggie Miller could never get past Michael Jordan. Those guys in a Jordan-less NBA probably would have a couple rings by now.
That's a phenomenal reference there into that, because I currently call Patrick Mahomes the Michael Jordan of the NFL, because I look at it where he couldn't win until the Bradys, the Mannings, and those guys left. And that's the way I look at it. And I really want that competition to come back. And I think that would be phenomenal for the sport at this point, to see the Burrows, the Allens, make it a rivalry. It's one-sided. A rivalry is not a rivalry until each side wins. Right now, you're just seeing the Chiefs just slaughter them. And it's, all right, I'm going to get angry. We're going to take an ad break because I don't want to talk about it. Burgess, nope, we're taking an ad break. I don't want to hear it. We're done. We're not talking about it. Ladies and gentlemen, stay tuned. Hear from our sponsors. We will be right back. All right, welcome back. We are here on Between the Tackles. We're talking all things football. We went all in. I called Eli Manning a bitch. I went there in the first half. I wanted to say it. I'm going to say it again. He's a bitch. I hate Eli Manning. And I'm glad you're not in the Hall of Fame. I'm just going to say it. I'm going to say it until he gets in, and then I'm going to be grumpy that he got in. But either way, we had some fun talking about the Snooze Bowl, which is also known as the Pro Bowl. We had some fun talking about the award show, the MVP race, and everything like that. But let's get to the nitty-gritty of what we need to talk about this weekend. Gentlemen, the Super Bowl is finally upon us. It seems like yesterday we were in preseason. We were begging for football season to be here. It is about to culminate in the absolute climactic ending of the season on Sunday. And of course, two teams that nobody wanted to see except for Manish, because he loves his Eagles, but nobody wants to see the Chiefs except Chiefs fans, are going to square up in this Super Bowl. It's going to be exciting. We hope it's going to be fascinating. We're going to see plenty of non-controversial calls. I'm just kidding. That's obviously not going to happen. The Chiefs are in there. They have to have controversial calls. No, let's not go down that path right now. We're going to talk about the teams, the players, and the opposite sides of the ball that we want to discuss here. So, gentlemen, I will throw this to the open field. One of you can take this and run with it right now. Give me an offense and give me who you like on the offense and why you're taking them over the other team's offense. Go at it.
All right, I'll start. I'm going to take Philadelphia Eagles offense. I think they are far more talented than the Kansas City Chiefs offense in terms of talent on the field. I am a little worried about, obviously Andy Reid's coaching on the Kansas City side, but in terms of talent alone and the players, for me, it's Philadelphia Eagles all day, because you got a decent quarterback. I know, Manish, I know you don't like, you're critical of Jalen Hurts, but it works. It works there. Obviously, my choice for the MVP, because I'm the contrarian who will not pick a quarterback to win that award. Saquon Barkley had one of the best seasons, for a running back. And then you have the talented wide receivers as well. You have the talented wide receivers as well behind a offensive line that is playing extremely well going into this game. I mean, for me, it's a no-brainer. I mean, the edge obviously to the Chiefs with the quarterback position, but I think talent-wise, everywhere else, you got to go with the Eagles, in my opinion.
Oh, Manish, this has got to be like pulling teeth for you. Okay, tell me why the Chiefs are better. Let Burgess have it. You got to tell me.
I mean, I'll give you two words or two names: Mahomes and Reid.
Yeah.
They have the best. They have the better quarterback by leaps and bounds. With all due respect to Jalen Hurts, they have the better head coach by leaps and bounds. With all due respect to Nick Sirianni. But if you want to get a little bit more detailed, look, to me, the most fascinating matchup is going to be how Vic Fangio decides to cover Travis Kelce. Last week, 2 weeks ago, I should say, the NFC Championship game, Reed Blankenship guarded Zach Ertz. Zach Ertz is in the twilight of his career, but he absolutely torched the Eagles. So Reed Blankenship clearly is not going to be guarding Travis Kelce. I don't think Oren Burks is going to be covering Travis Kelce either. I have a hunch that Zach Bond is going to be on Kelce a lot of the time. So that, to me, is a fascinating matchup. Zach Bond, one of the finalists for Defensive Player of the Year, a guy who was a journeyman, signed on a one-year deal, just had an unbelievable season, a season that not, frankly, many people talk about because of Saquon Barkley's 2,000-yard season, because of a number of different players on both sides of the ball. Bond gets mentioned, but the impact that he has had week in and week out has been so consistent. I could see him having a double-digit tackle game because he probably will be on Travis Kelce. He'll get a lot of looks. There'll be a lot of balls thrown in his direction, potential pass breakups, potential interception on blitzing situations, which they don't do very much. Fangio doesn't like to do that a lot, but there's a potential for Zach Bond to get a sack, I think he can kind of stuff the stat sheet a little bit. And, you know, if you want to go chalk, you go with the quarterbacks, maybe Saquon, you know, maybe Kareem Hunt. But if you look at it a little bit deeper, I really like the Bond-Kelsey matchup. And I think whoever wins that matchup, it's going to go a long way to determine who wins the game. Not the determining factor, but just one of those under-the-radar type of matchups that can really swing a game one way or the other. So that's what I'm going to be looking at, in addition to all the obvious stuff as well. No, I think Zach Bond gets the better of Travis Kelce. Again, I'm admittedly coming from a biased position, but if Bond does do some damage in that matchup, I think he's a guy who could steal away the MVP just because of the way the Eagles win games. You know, Jalen Hurts doesn't put up big numbers. Barkley, of course, could blow all this out of the water with 250-yard touchdown runs. But if Barkley has a relatively pedestrian game for him, and Hurts does what he's done statistically for much of this season, I could see Zach Bond kind of stealing this MVP and being just an incredibly vital weapon for Philadelphia on Sunday.
I love it. That's a great thought on that. And Vic Fangio, like you said, has done an absolute phenomenal job with his defense at this point. You got to think about the Eagles defense hitting all levels of just excellence across the board, where you can hit on Jalen Carter at the defensive line position. You got Zach Bond at linebacker. You got Mitchell and Cooper DeJean at corners there. They have a great defense that I think you told us pre-recording went from, 31st in the league to number 1 almost overnight, just by coaching and what they brought in and been able to do at the level that they're at. So the big thing that I'm going to touch on really quickly, that as good as that defense is, they're going against one hell of an offense that got them there. And arguably that offense hasn't been firing on all cylinders all throughout the year because they've been in such close games and everything like that with the Kansas City Chiefs. But you got to remember, at the end of the day, this is Patrick Mahomes that's taking the field. And right now there is nobody who's better at the quarterback position in the NFL, which pains me to say, but I have to say it because it is objectively true. Patrick Mahomes is the best quarterback in the league right now. He's arguably got the best tight end in the league. Well, I mean, that's debatable. Was the best tight end. He's a little washed, I think, at this point. But I mean, he's still Travis Kelce. That's the thing. He's going to make plays. He's going to do things. And then you got to think about the weapons he still has around him that nobody's talking about. I don't think anybody remembers that DeAndre Hopkins is on this Kansas City Chiefs team. He got traded there halfway through the season, which pissed me off more than anything. I know you guys remember laughing about how fired up I was about that because goddamn, was it Tennessee Titans, right? Yeah, yep. He came from Tennessee. Yeah, that's why I hate Tennessee again. The goddamn Tennessee Titans. They have DeAndre Hopkins, who was arguably one of the best receivers in the league, admittedly a couple of years ago. He still got stuff left in the tank, and obviously he's going to be pumped to try and win his first Super Bowl ring. Opposite side of him, he's got Hollywood Brown, who missed 99% of the season because he was on IR, and he's coming back and he's making plays in the playoffs. And he was the number 1 receiver for Baltimore once upon a time, and then got shipped to Arizona, where he was the number 1 guy for Kyler Murray. So Patrick Mahomes still has weapons around him. And not to mention, I didn't even bring up Kareem Hunt or Isaiah Pacheco. And then
Xavier Worthy.
We don't want. Come on, I know I'm wearing the hat, but we're not talking about him. I still like him from his Texas days. I don't want to hate him right off the bat. Okay, just give me that a little bit right now, please. I'm trying to talk about everything else besides Xavier Worthy. Anyway, I'm just saying, as good as Philly's defense is, and I hope they continue to be, so they can beat the damn Chiefs in this game, you still got to watch out for what could be a very, very explosive Chiefs team at this point. All that being said, some news recently came out that maybe the Chiefs have paid off the refs enough, and now they're moving to biological warfare. Is that what's going on? Are we Manish? Jalen Carter's sick in the locker room, and he's getting all over what's going on? Are the Philadelphia Eagles trying to get the Super Bowl postponed because they all got the flu? What the hell's going on down there?
No. Look, guys get sick. I'm sure he'll be fine. It's on Sunday night. He's got so much time. I don't think he's available for his media requests and availability time this week, other than maybe one day. So, it's not a big deal to me. I know Quinyon Mitchell may be sick as well. I'm not exactly sure, but unless it's something like some kind of severe virus, they're going to play. The big question is not whether they're going to play or not, just kind of how effective will they be as the game goes along. Will it actually have some kind of significant impact on how they play? as you guys know, as everybody who follows football this season knows, Jalen Carter has had a breakout season. Their best defensive lineman, arguably their best defensive player this season, a total game record, and against really a weakened Kansas City Chiefs offense that's even reshuffled with Tooney playing at tackle. I think that Jalen Carter can do a lot of damage and cause a lot of disruption. So if he's not 100%, we're not close to 100%. Yeah, it's kind of a big deal, but it's just impossible to know like how he's going to feel. He probably has no idea how he's going to feel on Sunday, but you figure the adrenaline alone will have him playing at a high level. An indispensable piece, frankly, to this team. It would be a shame if he was significantly compromised because of an illness. But no, biological warfare. I don't think so. I don't think so. And look,
I had to throw it out. I had to throw it out there. It's the Kansas City Chiefs. Anything is possible at this point.
The ref. It's funny that the referee association had to come out with a statement to basically say they were on the up and up because of all the chatter about favorable treatment. I actually thought that Patrick Mahomes handled it really exceptionally this week. Somebody tongue in cheek asked him who his favorite ref was, and I thought he handled it really well. Somebody also asked Travis Kelce.
Same guy.
He didn't seem to have much of a sense of humor when he was asked about phantom roughing the passer calls. So some of these guys are on edge, some guys are not. Ultimately, it would really suck. And I'm not saying this as a lifelong Eagles fan. I'm saying it as a football fan. It would really suck if there was some kind of controversial call in favor of each team, but especially in favor of the Chiefs, given what the narrative has been for much of the season.
Right. That's the big thing is I think at this point, regardless of how you feel about the Chiefs, how you feel about whoever, you want to see a good, fun, clean played game. And that's just all you can ask for at this point. If the Chiefs end up winning and it's fair and there's nothing controversial about it, it is what it is. It'll suck. And I'm not going to enjoy it personally because I hate the Chiefs, but I'm going to respect it as a football fan sitting there going, okay, they three-peated. It is what it is. But before we move on to predictions and some other stuff that I want to get into with the Super Bowl, Burgess, I want to throw this question to you. We brought up Spagnuolo earlier, and I got to give credit where credit's due. He's my boy because he went to Springfield College. He's an alumni like me, and it's freaking awesome that coaching tree started there with that. If he wins this game, is he cemented as the greatest defensive coordinator of all time? He's got to be, considering you think about what he did in 2007 for that Giants defense that we do not want to talk about again, but he was the mastermind, the defensive coordinator for that Giants team. And now what he's done with this Chiefs team, where you think about it, I was trying to argue in my head earlier about where we were talking about the defenses for both Philadelphia and Kansas City. And I'm thinking off the top of my head, there's two guys I can name for Kansas City, and that's Chris Jones and Bolton, who both made massive plays, and they've been really good players for a while there. But Kansas City's gone through so many players over the years on the defensive side of the ball in terms of, Tyrann Mathieu, Peters at one point. They've had good players, and they've all transitioned out except for your Jones and your Bolton. And, I think they have a couple of decent rookies there right now. But if Spagnuolo finds a way to shut down this Eagles offense that's just firing on all cylinders, is Steve Spagnuolo the greatest defensive coordinator of all time?
I mean, I think you can already make a case that he is one. I mean, he's been with the Chiefs since 2019. He's won this. He's been in a four-time Super Bowl champion as an assistant coach. You bring up what he did to the Patriots in 2007. Like it's hard to scoff at that. I mean, what he's done as an assistant coach, like as a Patriots fan, if he's like the opposing coordinator, like I'm terrified to play against him because like the guy is outstanding. Like I personally, I think he's already there, and you can make a significant argument that he is. Obviously, you have guys like Bill Belichick, and obviously there's bias with me there, even though he's with the Giants when he was an assistant coordinator, a defensive coordinator when he did his winning. But like,
think about Dick LeBeau with guys that big guys term. That right. He's got to be up there at this point.
Yeah, I mean, if I was him, I wouldn't even be looking for a head coaching job. I mean, he's so good at being a defensive coordinator that he should stay where he is right now. Him and Reed as a combination, as somebody who is a Chiefs hater and does not want to see them win, scares the living crap out of me. I'll be straight honest with you in that, like, if you were going to ask me to pick a defense, like I went talent on the offensive side of the ball, but defensively, like I'm picking coaching to win out in this game. I mean, obviously both teams have their talent, but I think Spagnuolo as an X factor, and I fully expect him to have that defense prepared to stop the run and stop and kind of keep Saquon in check as best as they can.
You hear that, Manish? Vic Fangio, he sucks. Don't worry about it. You're not going to do anything. So it's
no,
all
Fangio's
Spagnuolo.
Look, Spags is great, and Spags is the top 5 defensive coordinator of all time. You guys completely. I mean, this is really embarrassing. You mentioned it briefly, Burg, but the greatest defensive coordinator of all time is Bill Belichick. I mean, like, what are we talking about here? I mean, the guy won 2 Super Bowls with the Giants. He shut down the most explosive offense in football at the time in Buffalo. He came in, and I don't care what his title was or who he gave the defensive coordinator title was to the Patriots staff members. The guy was running the defense. He's clearly the best defensive coordinator, defensive mind in the history of football. Mind. Yeah, okay, fine. So technically, he had the defensive coordinator tag with the Giants. He took 2 borderline scrubby Giants teams to Super Bowl victories. I know Parcells gets a lot of the credit, and he deserves a lot of the credit. But I mean, what are we doing here? Let's not overthink it here. Let's not overthink it. I love Spags. Spags is great. For a single season, I don't even think Spags is the best coordinator of all time. Frankly, I don't even think Bill Belichick is the best coordinator of any single season. That's Buddy Ryan and the Bears. And I think the 86 Bears were better than the 85 Bears, but that's probably a different discussion for a different time. Spags, definitely Hall of Fame caliber, top 5 defensive coordinator of all time. I mean, there's innovative guys like, Hogan, you had mentioned I think you mentioned Dick LeBeau. Mm-hmm. Guys who, and Tom Landry, I mean, this is going way back to when he was defensive coordinator of the Giants before he became the Cowboys head coach, innovators. But if you're talking about in the modern era, it's Bill Belichick. And with all due respect to Spags, he all-time great, not Bill Belichick.
I mean, I'm on record as saying Belichick's the greatest head coach of all time, so I'll give him that pedestal. Spags can have DC. I'm okay with it.
I think it's Belichick. I still think it's Belichick. If Belichick didn't get a look, and Spags, let's be honest here. If Belichick never became a head coach, he probably would have won 5 Super Bowls anyway, or 6. The guy was unbelievable. What he did in that Super Bowl, the wide right game. I mean, everybody remembers Scott Norwood wide right, but how he slowed down Jim Kelly, Thurman Thomas, Andre Reed. I remember watching it thinking that this offense was unstoppable. They could not be stopped. He had some weird scheme. I remember Lawrence Taylor talking about it, something that the Bills had never seen before, just kind of like a muddle rush, just something that's so off the wall and unconventional. Look, like I said, I love Spags. He's a threat on Sunday without a doubt, but to me, Bill Belichick's on a completely different level than anybody else.
I mean, I'm just saying Belichick won 2 as a DC. Spags has won 4. I'm messing with you, Manish.
And Spags beat Belichick.
If Belichick was not Belichick didn't get a second opportunity in New England and just became a defensive coordinator again. He probably would have won a bunch of Super Bowls as a coordinator. The only reason, and again, I don't mean to disrespect Spags because I don't mean to do that. I think he's just exceptional, all-time great. But he was a miserable failure as the Rams head coach.
Yeah, oh yeah.
I mean, if he was the Rams head coach and a winner, maybe he would have won as a head coach. But he only lasted a couple of years because he was terrible. And you can't penalize Belichick for being successful as a head coach because, yeah, he was a head coach. But who among the Patriots fans thinks that Belichick wasn't deeply involved and primarily involved in the defense? I mean, come on now.
Yeah, I gotta admit,
I just like poking you. That's all. I just want to poke you to make you get mad at me. That's half the fun on this.
We're definitely bottoming out if I'm making an argument against Bill Belichick at this point. We're bottoming out.
Well, speaking of bottoming out, gentlemen, I'm going to play a little game with you at this point with the Super Bowl. Of course, that's what we're here to talk about at this point, and we're going to wrap this Who Daddy up at this point. But before we do, we got to get into some predictions. And for the bottom predictions, I want to start off with something that we spoke briefly about before recording. We're going to go with a sleeper agent. We're going to go with a sleeper agent that many of the fans out there might not either know the name or think about the player in terms of what they're going to bring to the table on Sunday that could possibly make a game-winning catch, could, do something the last second that's going to be hopefully not controversial like we talked about. Manish, I'm going to throw it to you first since I got you all hot and bothered about my Belichick and Spags take. No, I'm just kidding, obviously. Give me a player that you're keeping your eye on Sunday that's going to shock some people.
Eagles backup tight end, Grant Calcaterra. Earlier this season, when Dallas Goedert missed a bit of time, Calcaterra did exceptionally well, and exceptionally in quotes. He wasn't getting 8 catches for 80 yards or 8 catches for 100 yards, but he had timely catches, important catches, and I would anticipate that he might have 1 or 2 very important catches in critical moments in the second half on Sunday. I'm not saying he's gonna light it up for 100 yards or 80 yards. Maybe he gets a key touchdown. Maybe he gets a key 4th down conversion or a 25-yard pass that sets up a tush-push touchdown. Whatever. He's, to me, a guy who you cannot sleep on, and I'm not just saying that to overinflate his value. I really think, and Spags knows this, that Calcaterra is a guy that you're obviously not going to game plan for, but he's a guy that can beat you at an inopportune time for the defense. Again, maybe it's just 1 or 2 catches, but I think he's going to make a play or 2 in a pivotal moment to help Philadelphia.
I love it. All right, Burgess, give me a player that is going to make a difference in this game.
So my dark horse here is running back for the Kansas City Chiefs, Samaje Perine. He had the 1 reception in the AFC Championship game against Buffalo that I think, if I remember correctly, actually sealed the game for the Chiefs at the end there. It's the 3rd running back. He's not going to be, like Manish said, with his pick there, he's not going to be a guy you're going to game plan for. He's probably not going to be on the field a whole heck of a lot in this one. But he did have 28 receptions throughout the regular season for the Chiefs. I could see him the same way with Manish's guy, picking up that key 1st down late in the game, maybe a key 4th down if they need to convert to go on a game-winning drive at the end of the game. Just a guy that's going to spell in for Pacheco and Hunt at some point that I think could be a factor on 1 or 2 of those plays late in the 4th quarter.
Nice. And I'm going to go with a guy for me that I already brought up earlier in the podcast, and that's going to be Hollywood Brown for the Kansas City Chiefs, because arguably, like I said, a lot of people forget that he's even on the team at this point because he was injured for 99% of the season. But on top of that, too, a lot of times you see teams focus on the number 1, number 2 guys for offenses. And of course, that's DeAndre Hopkins, that's Xavier Worthy for the receivers on the Kansas City side, where you might see Brown sneak in and get some massive catches that are going to help set up Kansas City at some point in this game. So, like I said, keep your eyes open on the 3 sleeper agents we picked there. We'll see which one of us is right, wrong. Hopefully I'm wrong. I don't want to see the Kansas City Chiefs win. So hopefully Hollywood Brown gets 0 catches and he does nothing and the Chiefs lose by 1 million. That would be phenomenal. That being said, we got to get into the actual predictions of what's going to happen. And as much as I'm going to sit here and spout off how I want the Kansas City Chiefs to lose this freaking game, I'm picking the Kansas City Chiefs to win. I hate it, and I hate that I'm doing it, but I got to go with my gut feeling. I want Philly. I'm rooting for the Birds. I want them dirty Birds to win, which makes me want to barf everywhere, because the last time those dirty Birds won the Super Bowl was against my beloved Patriots, so I still hold a grudge, but not as bad. But it's there. I got the Kansas City Chiefs, unfortunately, pulling out the slight victory. I'm going with the final score, 27-24, Kansas City Chiefs. Gentlemen, what do you got?
Go ahead, Manish. You got a dog in the fight.
Well, look, it's a Super Bowl and Andy Reid, so you're going to see some kind of weird wrinkle that you haven't seen before. I wouldn't be surprised if there's a play in there for Carson Wentz. I don't know what the play is going to be. Maybe it's a Philly special for Carson Wentz, just to kind of stick it to his former team when they're in the red zone. I could also see Nick Sirianni and Kellen Moore kind of taking a page out of the Dan Campbell playbook and doing a tackle eligible inside the 5-yard line with Jordan Mailata. Because Jordan Mailata, if you guys aren't familiar, was a star rugby player in Australia. So he can actually catch the ball. So I think something strange is going to happen. Ultimately, it's a cliche, but it's a cliche because it's true. The team that takes care of the ball, commits to fewer turnovers, will win the game. The Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs have won 17 consecutive one-score games. That's not by accident. They know how to win in crunch time. But Jalen Hurts has taken care of the ball for the second half of the season. Hasn't done much statistically, but he's done enough when it mattered. They've leaned on Saquon. Stopping Saquon, a lot easier said than done. Earlier this season, when the Eagles played the number one rushing defense in Baltimore, Saquon ran for over 100 yards and a touchdown. I don't think he'll be stopped. It's just a matter of whether the Chiefs can limit those home run plays that Saquon seems to have every week, 50-plus yard touchdown runs. If they can do that, and then they can leave it up to Patrick Mahomes in the waning moments. So it doesn't look good on paper if it's a close game for Philadelphia. But like I said, I'm biased. I want to see the Eagles win. I think they are the better overall team, minus the quarterback and the coach. Those are massive deficiencies, of course. You want to have the better quarterback and the better head coach. But the rest of the team is so solid. The defense, basically airtight. Best running back season in the history of football for my money. And a quarterback who, again, I don't think he's that great, but he makes timely plays with his feet, sometimes with his arm. I think it's a white knuckler. I think it's a fourth quarter game. When it's all said and done, 31-27 Philadelphia.
I love it.
I'm gonna echo a lot of what Manish said, so I don't need to repeat it. But the refs are gonna try. It's not gonna work this week. It's not gonna surprise me if we happen to finally see the old Andy Reid clock management snafu come in at some point in this one. Saquon's not going to be stopped, and I know we're going to get to our MVP predictions. I'm going to save my spiel on Saquon for that, but I have the Eagles winning 28-24. The streak stops at 17.
I like it. Well, let's keep the streak going with you. Go right into your MVP. Talk about Saquon for me.
Saquon Barkley, MVP of this game. It's going to be the capstone on an unbelievable season. Going to continue to stick it to the Giants when he wins Super Bowl MVP. He's gonna go up. I just talked about Spagnuolo having something game planned for Barkley and slowing him down. I just don't think that Saquon can be stopped. Like Manish said, will he have a 50-yard touchdown run in this one or something like that? Probably not. I bet you they'll be able to limit that aspect of it, but he's going to be picking up chunk yards each play. Each time he touches the ball, I think that he's going to be just an absolute animal, and it absolutely deserved for that guy to finish his year off with a Super Bowl MVP. Like Manish said, the Eagles, I think, on paper are a far more talented team outside of the two areas that he outlined there. I just think that we've been saying it all year that the Chiefs are going to lose. They're going to lose. They're getting lucky with these wins. I think it's going to finally come to a head. If one or two plays, has 6 inches or so go the other way in that AFC Championship game, we aren't talking about the Kansas City Chiefs right now. We're talking about the Buffalo Bills. And I think that the Eagles are more talented than the Buffalo Bills all over the roster, and I like them to win this one and for Saquon to finally get his.
Nice. I like it. All right, Manish. I have a feeling our prop bettors out there need to get a little juicy on who you're going to pick for your MVP. What do you got for us?
Well, first, Burg is probably going to end up being right on this. If Philadelphia wins, it probably will be Saquon. I've been saying that Saquon's going to get about $120, $125 and a touchdown. And then I don't know if you guys saw, but earlier this week, the Players Tribune released a voicemail from Saquon Barkley's daughter to Saquon about how much he meant to her and how much he's meant to the family. And I listened to it, and you can't listen to that and not think that Saquon's going to go off for 250 and 5 touchdowns. I mean, it's just unbelievable.
Love it.
But yeah, no, I think I'm going a little unconventional. I mentioned Zach Bond earlier. I think that he's going to be in the mix a lot, as he typically is from week to week, but even more so because he's likely going to be around Travis Kelce a lot. And as anybody who's ever watched the Chiefs play in the Patrick Mahomes era knows, when it's nut cutting time, Mahomes looks for one man, and that's Travis Kelce. So the opportunities from a defensive standpoint are going to be there for Bond. I think he gets a few pass breakups. I think he gets his typical, 15 tackles. I think he gets a forced fumble. And I think that is enough, and maybe even an interception because of all the opportunities and targets that Kelce's probably going to get. I think that is going to be enough for him to be the MVP. And if you're a betting man, like I may or may not be, he's plus 8,000 on BetMGM. So if you put a few bucks down, you can get a huge return. Minimal risk, huge payoff. I just think he's too good of a player, and those odds are absolutely astronomical. Why not, take a chance on a guy who can make a difference on that side of the ball in the game?
Well, let me just be the first to say that I hope both of you are correct. I hope that Saquon and Zach Bond split MVP, and I'm completely wrong because I am going to go with the traditional patty cakes. Mahomes is going to win the MVP. I don't want it. I'm just saying it's going to happen because that's what the NFL wants. I'm just kidding. Well, am I kidding? I don't know. Maybe I'm kidding. Maybe I'm not. Patty cakes Mahomes for MVP. Give me Travis Kelce proposing to Tay-Tay at the 50-yard line, and that's a wrap. That's how the Super Bowl is going to end, and then we're going to be on here next week moping and miserable and just hating everything because me and Burge hate the Chiefs, and Manish, you'll be miserable because the Birds couldn't pull it out. I certainly hope I'm wrong. Gentlemen, I want to be happy. I want to be excited. I want to come into next week as fired up as I was this week, talking about the Dirty Birds winning the Super Bowl, guys climbing up grease street poles and eating horse crap like they did last time they won the Super Bowl. So give me that any day of the week over the Kansas City Chiefs winning. But that will be to be determined at this point of this recording. Burgess, what do you got for me? You got one last word?
I just want to say that if I knew that this season was going to start out with me being the biggest Philadelphia Eagles fan in the Super Bowl, I would have laughed in your face saying, get out of here. I'm never rooting for that team. Like I said, they're up there with my fans that drive me nuts. This is an easy choice, and I think it's laughable that I actually have to do this. I hope I'm on next week just laughing that the Eagles won, and then I'll start complaining that the Eagles won another Super Bowl when they win this one next week. So I'm always going to complain about something.
Yeah, I'll be just an FYI for you guys. I'll be doing the pod from the Ben Franklin Parkway where the parade route is next week. I'm assuming they'll be having a parade the day we do the pod. So
let's go.
And just like that, we lost Manish for the night and for next week. So everybody bid him a nice farewell. I'm just kidding, of course. All right, gentlemen, as always, it has been an absolute blast talking football with you. This season has been absolutely phenomenal from the bottom of my heart. I can't thank both of you enough for indulging my craziness, my shit-talkingness when I came in last place in our picks. And hopefully I'll be numero uno going into after the Super Bowl and everything. So, gentlemen, it's been an absolute pleasure. For all of our listeners out there, we love and appreciate every single one of you. Thank you for joining this crazy ride with us. Burgess, you got one more thing to throw in my face. What do you got?
I am going to give Manish the championship win for our playoff picks. If he is right about Zach Bond winning the MVP, he automatically wins it. All right there. I can't even argue it.
You can give it to him. I'm not going to give it to him. I still won the picks. He's the basement dweller. I ain't giving him crap at this point.
Hey, we're tied. If I win this Super Bowl and you're wrong, we tie. Just keep that in mind.
And
That's right.
Everything I said about loving and appreciating you guys, Manish, that was only meant for you. Screw Burgess. I'm done with him at this point. All right, gents. It's been a blast. Burgess.
Peace.
Later.